The flames from my father's will danced in Veronica's manicured hands as she held it over the memorial candle at his wake. The paper curled and blackened, years of careful planning reduced to ash that fell like snow onto the funeral home's burgundy carpet. "I'm his wife, I get everything," she shrieked, her voice cutting through the subdued murmur of mourners. 3 years of marriage trumps your 28 years of being his disappointment of a daughter. I stood perfectly still beside Dad's casket, watching the theatrical performance with the same strange smile I'd been wearing since I'd found him 3 days ago. Cold. Blue. Dead at 55 from what the paramedics initially called a massive heart attack. "That was the only copy," Veronica announced triumphantly, grinding the ashes under her stiletto heel. "Now the state will recognize the truth. Everything goes to the surviving spouse. The house, the business, the life insurance. All of it." Behind her, her son Derek smirked at me with the same predatory expression he'd worn since she'd moved them into our home 3 years ago. At 25, he was 3 years older than me, but had never worked a day in his life, content to leech off my father's success while calling himself an entrepreneur. "Ms. Pierce," the funeral director said nervously. "Perhaps we should." "It's Mrs. Pierce," Veronica snapped, though she'd never legally changed her name from Hendricks. "And we're conducting family business." I remained silent, my hand resting on Dad's casket. He looked peaceful in death, more peaceful than he'd looked in the last year as his health mysteriously deteriorated despite his previous vitality. The marathon runner who'd become winded walking upstairs. The man with perfect blood work who'd suddenly developed heart problems. "Nothing to say, Meredith?" Derek taunted. "Daddy's girl finally speechless?" I tilted my head, studying them both. Veronica in her designer black dress that she'd probably bought the day before Dad died. Derek in his ill-fitting suit, already calculating how to spend his windfall. Neither of them crying. Neither of them even pretending to grieve. "Did you know," I said conversationally, "that Dad installed security cameras in his home office 6 months ago?" Veronica's triumphant expression flickered. "So what? Just making conversation." I touched Dad's cold hand one last time. He was so proud of that system. Cloud storage, motion activated, completely hidden. He said it would protect his most valuable assets. "His assets are mine now," Veronica said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. The funeral home's main door opened, and 2 figures entered. I didn't turn, but I watched Veronica's face pale as she recognized them. "Mrs. Hendricks," Detective Patricia Santos said, her badge gleaming under the funeral home's soft lighting. "We need to speak with you about your husband's death." "It's Mrs. Pierce," Veronica said weakly. "And he had a heart attack." The hospital confirmed. "The hospital confirmed he died of cardiac arrest," the second figure corrected. This was Dr. Michael Roberts from the medical examiner's office. "Which is how everyone dies, technically. The question is what caused the cardiac arrest." "His heart condition," Derek said quickly. Too quickly. He'd been sick for months. "Yes, about that." Dr. Roberts pulled out a tablet. According to his medical records from just 18 months ago, Carl Pierce had the cardiovascular system of a man half his age. His sudden decline was unusual. "People get sick," Veronica said, but her hands were trembling. "It happens." "It does," Detective Santos agreed. "But it's interesting how his symptoms align perfectly with chronic digitalis poisoning. Foxglove, to be specific." The room had gone completely silent. Even the mourners who'd been pretending not to watch were now openly staring. "That's ridiculous," Veronica sputtered. "You can't prove." "The blood samples taken during his emergency room visits over the past year were preserved," Dr. Roberts interrupted. "We ran additional tests after Ms. Pierce provided some compelling evidence. Would you like to know what we found?" I finally turned from the casket, meeting Veronica's panicked eyes. "The tea," I said softly. "Every morning, you made him special tea for his heart condition. From your garden." "Herbal tea is perfectly legal," she snapped. "It is," I agreed. "But foxglove isn't an herb, Veronica. It's a poison, and you've been growing it in your garden since the day you moved in. You can't prove I gave him anything. Maybe he made his own tea?" I pulled out my phone. "Should we watch the security footage? 6 months of you preparing his special morning blend? Adding just enough to make him sick, but not enough to kill him quickly? Building up in his system until his heart couldn't take any more." Derek stepped forward aggressively. "You're setting us up. You probably poisoned him yourself for the inheritance." "The inheritance Dad already gave me," I said calmly. 2 years ago, when he updated his will after discovering some interesting facts about his new wife's previous marriages. Veronica went still. What are you talking about? Husband number 1, Robert Clifton, died of a sudden illness after 3 years of marriage. Husband number 2, James Walsh, fatal heart attack after 2.5 years. Both left everything to their grieving widow. I smiled that strange smile again. Dad hired a private investigator after you started pushing him to update his will in your favor. He found the pattern quite illuminating. Those were natural deaths. Veronica's voice had gone shrill. Maybe, but Dad didn't think so. That's why he updated his will to leave everything in trust, with me as executor. That's why he installed cameras. That's why he started keeping samples of that tea you made him. I gestured to Detective Santos, all of which he documented in a safety deposit box, along with instructions to investigate if anything happened to him. But I burned the will. Veronica screamed. You burned a will, I corrected. The one Dad left where he knew you'd find it. The real one, the one filed with his attorney, the one that explicitly states you get nothing if his death is suspicious? That one's quite safe. Derek lunged at me, but Detective Santos stepped between us. Mr. Hendricks, I'll need you to step back. We have a warrant for your arrest as well. Me? His voice cracked. I didn't do anything. Accessory to murder, Santos said, cuffing him. We have footage of you researching digitalis toxicity, purchasing plants from a specialty nursery, and discussing dosages with your mother. The cameras, I said to their shocked faces, weren't just in the office. They were everywhere. Dad knew he was dying. He just wanted to make sure justice would follow. As the police led them away, Veronica turned back one last time. You knew, and you let him die. I suspected, I admitted. But Dad wouldn't let me interfere. He said he needed irrefutable proof, enough to guarantee conviction. He chose justice over his life. That's insane. No, I said quietly. That's love. He loved me enough to ensure I'd be safe from you, even if it meant dying to prove what you were. He knew you'd come after me next, just like you probably went after Robert Clifton's daughter and James Walsh's son. Her face confirmed what we'd suspected. There were other victims, other children who'd lost fathers to this black widow. The funeral home emptied quickly after that, leaving me alone with Dad's casket and Mr. Morrison, the funeral director. I'm sorry for the disturbance, I said. He shook his head. Your father was a good man. He deserves justice. I looked at Dad one last time before they closed the casket. He'd lost weight in those final months, his face gaunt from the poison coursing through his system. But he'd never wavered, never let on that he knew what was happening. I'm going to find them, I whispered to him. All the other victims. All the other children who lost their fathers to her greed. I'm going to make sure their stories are heard. It's been a year now. Veronica and Derek are serving life sentences. The digitalis in Dad's system, combined with the evidence he'd gathered, made it an easy conviction. The investigation revealed 4 previous husbands, all dead under similar circumstances. 4 families destroyed by one woman's greed. I used my inheritance to start the Carl Pierce Foundation for Victim Advocacy, helping families investigate suspicious deaths of loved ones. We've already helped solve 3 cold cases, all involving poisoning by family members. Dad's sacrifice saved more than just me. It exposed a serial killer who'd hidden behind marriage certificates and crocodile tears. He gave up his life to ensure no other family would suffer like those before us. Sometimes I dream about that morning, finding him cold in his bed, the cup of tea still on his nightstand. In the dreams, I save him. I burst in and knock the cup away. I force him to go to the police sooner. But then I wake up and remember his words from that last video he recorded. Justice requires sacrifice, Mary. Don't mourn me. Honor me by making sure she never hurts anyone again. So I do. Every day, I honor him by helping others find the truth about their loved ones' deaths. By ensuring that killers who hide behind family ties face justice. By being the advocate he knew I could be. The Carl Pierce Foundation's motto, etched in stone at our headquarters, comes from the note Dad left in the safety deposit box. Love protects, even from beyond the grave. He protected me the only way he could, by letting evil reveal itself fully, permanently, irrevocably. His death was not in vain. It was a final act of love from a father who refused to let his daughter become another victim. And somewhere, perhaps, he's finally at peace, knowing that his sacrifice saved not just me, but all the future victims Veronica would have claimed. That strange smile I wore at his wake? It wasn't madness or shock. It was recognition of the gift he'd given me. The truth, preserved in digital clarity, powerful enough to stop a killer who'd thought herself untouchable. Dad always said the truth would set us free. He just never mentioned that sometimes the price of that freedom was everything.